Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today, I'm bringing you the next chapter in the emotional and turbulent journey of LyTuDiep and CEO James. As you may remember from the previous episode, James had set aside all his work, devoting himself entirely to the search for Diep, the woman he loves more than life itself. But despite exhausting all his efforts, combing through every alleyway, and chasing down even the smallest leads, every piece of information about Diep remains a complete mystery. No messages, no traces. It's as if Diep vanished into thin air, leaving James behind with a never-ending ache in his heart. There were nights he sat silently on a park bench, clutching a small photo of Diep, his lifeless eyes staring into the distance. Every time his phone buzzed, he rushed to check it, only to be disappointed that it wasn't a message from her. James didn't say much, but everyone could see it. He had lost weight, his eyes were tired, and his smile seemed to have disappeared. And yet, what people admire most is that he never gave up. Today, I'll continue telling you what happened after those long days filled with both hope and despair. The story is about to enter a new phase where love, perseverance, and fate collide with powerful force. Let's follow along together to find out, will James find Diep, or will everything fade into silence, as if it never existed? And don't forget to leave your predictions in the comments below. Who knows, you might be the one who guesses the next twist in the story. It has been over a week since Diep disappeared, and James, once a cold, decisive CEO, is now just a frail shadow of himself, trapped in a numbing cycle of repetitive days. Each morning, the first thing he does is not check his work emails, but stare at his phone screen. A missed call, a new message, or maybe just a blurry photo sent by a stranger with a caption, "Sir, this woman looks a lot like your wife." Every single one makes his heart race, sending him rushing off like someone running from the fear buried deep inside. But when he arrives, when he faces the truth, it's always someone else. A confused stare, a sympathetic shake of the head, and once again he quietly drives home, a lone figure in the midst of a bustling world. Once, under the dim lights of a bus stop on the outskirts of town, he saw a girl whose walk reminded him of Diep. Her long hair was tousled by the wind, her white dress dulled by the dusty road. His heart clenched, his hands trembled as he called out, "Diep?" The girl turned, unfamiliar eyes. Startled, it wasn't her. James stood frozen in the chaos of traffic, feeling the weight of the world collapse once more. Every extinguished hope carved a new wound into his heart. And yet, strangely, he never allowed himself to give up. He knew deep down, if he didn't keep searching, no one else could walk this path for him. No one else would understand the pain. No one else could love enough to wait. So he forced himself to hold things together. By day, he showed up at the company to handle pending projects. By night, when the city fell asleep, he spread out the map again, marking places he hadn't been, combing through border zones where vague sightings were reported. More flyers were printed. More calls were made, even though the answer was always the same: "Sorry, I don't know." At home, his mother, a woman who had endured a lifetime of hardship, was gradually recovering. Her health had stabilized, but her eyes still carried an unfathomable sadness. Diep wasn't just a daughter-in-law, she was the daughter she had always dreamed of. Each time James came home, disheveled clothes, a hollow stare, a gaunt face, she would quietly turn away to hide her tears. She said nothing, just gently laid out dinner, placed a warm glass of water on the table, and sometimes rested her frail hand on his shoulder, silently offering strength. Until one evening, James returned from a long trip to a remote mountain area. He opened the door and stepped inside in silence. The rain was still tapping steadily on the roof. He threw his wet coat on the chair, collapsed onto the floor, and buried his head in his hands. His mother sat in the corner of the room, pausing her knitting. She quietly walked over and sat beside him. No questions. None were needed. She simply pulled him into her arms, as if he were a little boy again, and James broke down in tears, the sobs caught in his throat, the anguish of a man who had been strong for too long. "I'm sorry for not being able to do anything for you," she whispered, gently rubbing his back. "I don't blame you, Mom. It's just every day without any news feels like my soul is being drained." "But I believe, Mom. I believe Diep is still alive," she nodded, her eyes unwavering in the dark. "If you believe, then I believe too. We'll wait together no matter how long it takes." Mother and son sat silently in their modest little room outside. The wind whispered through the window slats, rustling the white curtain. The street lamp cast a faint glow. No music, no poetic words, just two hearts beating in unison, a fragile hope that somehow never fades. After countless tireless efforts, the police officially held an emergency meeting. The tension in the room was palpable. Everyone understood clearly. Time was running out. And each day that Diep remained missing was another day of danger lurking over her. All eyes turned to one name, John. He wasn't just the main suspect in Diep's disappearance, he was also the mastermind behind a series of crimes, from drug trafficking and kidnapping to money laundering and shielding underground networks that had spread like a spider's web. Capturing John was no longer just about bringing him to justice, it could also be the only key to uncovering Diep's whereabouts. The Special Task Force decided to deploy to undercover officers. Their mission to closely track John's closest associates, the silent, seemingly harmless henchmen who were actually critical links in the chain of sophisticated drug deals. After days of intense surveillance and relentless investigation, they finally uncovered information about a major transaction set to take place at an abandoned house in the isolated outskirts of the city's west side, a place long forgotten and rarely visited. The operation was launched that very night. A surveillance team disguised themselves as civilians and quietly infiltrated the area. Every move was calculated, every step taken with the lightness of wind. Just as the suspects began their transaction, unaware that outsiders had drawn near, they were swiftly subdued. Police stormed in from all directions like a raging storm. Shouts, the crash of doors being kicked in, and the click of handcuffs echoed in the darkness. And at last, John was captured. No escape, no protection. He was taken away in a disheveled state, his eyes still holding that chilling mix of arrogance and cold indifference. Many believed that once the ringleader was in custody, the curtain of mystery would be lifted, and Diep would soon be found. But no, the truth was far more brutal. John refused to provide any information about Diep. When questioned, he merely curled his lips into a cold smile. Despite hours of interrogation, he dodged every question, pretended to know nothing, and remained uncooperative. Even worse, he admitted he had planned to capture Diep himself to use her against James, but she had mysteriously vanished before he could act. The news reached James. He was stunned. For days, he had clung to the hope that once John was caught, all secrets would be revealed. But now, all that remained was an empty void. No one knew where Diep was. No one even knew if she was still alive. And for James, it was a heavy blow to a heart already worn thin by pain. Yet what was surprising in the depths of that despair was that James did not collapse. He stared at the news on the screen, eyes weary but still burning with determination. He stood up and walked out onto the balcony where the early summer breeze gently brushed past, and into the wind. He whispered, "Diep, if you're still out there somewhere, please hold on just a little longer. I'm still looking for you. I've never stopped." After the police captured John but still couldn't uncover any leads related to Diep, James became even more unsettled. He no longer placed his faith in the system's leads. Instead, he chose to take matters into his own hands. He went to every alleyway, every rooftop near the mountain foothills, the last place where someone had claimed to see a mysterious young woman. "Excuse me, have you seen this girl before? I just need the smallest detail, even a passing glance." Every word James spoke was gentle, yet urgent. But all he received in return were shaken heads and sympathetic eyes. No one knew, no one had seen her. There wasn't a single clue to hold on to. When he returned to his car, now covered in a thin layer of dust, James looked like a man lost. The mountain wind soaked his coat, but his heart was colder still. He sat motionless, gripping the steering wheel, eyes staring into the distance. Somewhere out there in the deep forest, was Diep still waiting for him? Or had she already vanished forever? Just then, Trang, his longtime assistant and close friend, called urgently. Her voice was filled with worry. James, I'm so sorry to bother you right now, but there's a serious issue with the last timber shipment. The partner is demanding to cancel the contract. And the legal department is in total chaos if you don't come back. The company could suffer huge losses. James sat in silence. Once again, he faced a painful choice. Return to save the company, the life's work he had built with his own hands, or continue wandering aimlessly in search of the woman he loved most. In the end, he nodded without a word, accepting that he needed to pause the search. Not give it up, just take one step back to prepare for the road ahead. He returned to the office. Trang met him with eyes full of exhaustion and understanding. She had done her best for a week, but there were things only James could resolve. He spent 2 days untangling the crisis, meeting with the board of directors, renegotiating terms with the partners, and calming the internal chaos. Then, once everything had stabilized, he called Trang into his office. Without preamble, he said plainly, Trang, I need you to temporarily take over operations for me. I have to go back and look for Diep. I can't just sit here when she might be waiting for me somewhere out there. Trang looked at him without speaking. She simply nodded. She knew James had never truly let go, and she understood that if she didn't help him hold down the fort, he wouldn't be able to leave with peace of mind. That afternoon, James left the city once more. The skies began to darken with rain. The early season showers came suddenly, cold and heavy. But he didn't stop. In the rain, he drove to small towns on the outskirts, stopping at every gas station, diner, grocery store, and post office, any place where people might pass through. In his bag were hundreds of flyers, each with Diep's photo and the words, "If you've seen this woman, please call. I will be deeply grateful." Even the smallest detail helps. He pasted them on utility poles, market walls, village bulletin boards. Even when the rain soaked the paper and blurred the ink, he continued. His hands were trembling from the cold, his coat drenched, shoes caked in mud. But in James's eyes, there remained a light that would not fade, the belief that Diep was still alive. And he would find her. James wasn't the only one tirelessly searching for Diep. His mother, a woman well into the twilight of her years, was also quietly giving her all. Though she no longer had the strength to travel far, she still walked to nearby neighborhoods, knocking gently on doors to ask for news. In her hand was an old photo of Diep, one she had carefully chosen and sealed in a thin plastic cover, treating it like a precious keepsake. "Excuse me, I'm sorry to bother you. Have you seen this girl before? She's my daughter-in-law. She's been missing for almost 2 weeks now." Her voice trembled. Her hands trembled, but her eyes still held hope. One day, she decided to return to the house of a distant relative, a place where Diep had visited a few times in the past. She hoped that maybe in a moment of fear or danger, Diep might have returned to this familiar place. But when she opened the gate and stepped inside, there was only an empty courtyard. The scent of damp grass and the shrill cries of cicadas made the space feel even colder. No one knew anything about Diep. She left in silence, but something heavy weighed on her heart, unwilling to give up. She chose to walk along the edge of the forest, the very area where Diep had last been seen, and then along a narrow dirt trail in the gray overcast of a gloomy afternoon. She unexpectedly saw James. He was sitting on a large rock, head bowed, his clothes stained with dirt. His eyes empty as he stared at a small stream trickling through the stones. Gone was the firm resolve. Gone was the commanding presence of a powerful CEO. At that moment, he was just a man, drained of strength by sorrow and despair. She walked toward him. Though her legs were tired, she moved gently, careful not to startle him. "James," she called softly. He looked up. When he saw his mother, James said nothing. He simply leaned closer and rested his head on her shoulder like a child. The two of them sat quietly for a few seconds. The forest rain had just stopped and tiny droplets still fell from the leaves onto their hair. "Mom," James's voice broke. "I'm scared that one day I won't have the strength to keep going." She didn't respond right away. Instead, she gripped his hand firmly and slowly said, "My son, I've felt that way too. When your father passed, I thought I couldn't go on, but I did because of you. And now, Diep, she's somewhere out there. She's counting on us not to give up." James remained silent. She continued, her voice steadier now. "You're her only anchor. If you fall, what will become of her? I can't walk as far as you can, but I'll always be here, supporting you in my own way. As long as you keep moving forward, I believe Diep will come back to us." The two of them sat side by side beneath the thick canopy of trees. No more words were needed, yet their hearts were replenished with strength. Perhaps in the darkest moments of despair, what we need most is simply an embrace, an unconditional belief. At the foot of the mountain, sunlight began to break through the gray clouds. A thin beam of light streamed through the branches and shone upon their clasped hands. The hands of a mother and son, bound together by a single shared belief that Diep was still alive, and they would not stop until they found her. Though time has passed, though the trail has grown cold, and though every lead seems to close one by one, James and his mother have never given up. They've journeyed through countless places, posted hundreds of flyers, knocked on doors under scorching sun, and pouring forest rain, all in search of a fragile glimmer of hope. That somewhere out there, Diep is still alive. James may be exhausted, but he has never lost faith. His mother may be frail with age, but a mother's heart endures stronger than any storm. And Diep, wherever she may be, remains the thread that binds hope, family, and love together, a light that refuses to fade in the hearts of those who wait. We, the ones following this story, may not be beside them, may not walk the path they're on, but we can still walk with them in spirit. Let us offer a heartfelt prayer, a sincere wish for Diep, that she is safe, that she still has the strength to endure, and that she still carries within her the faith that someone out there is looking for her, because sometimes miracles don't come from grand gestures, they come from the quiet, loving prayers of strangers. If you believe in miracles, if you still hope for the day Diep returns to the arms of James and his mother, please leave a comment below this video with the words, "Diep, we are still waiting for you to come home." Who knows, perhaps that small message will reach a heart and bring a miracle closer. Thank you all for watching, thank you for feeling, for sharing, and for hoping. See you in the next episode, where this journey continues with hearts that never stop calling Diep's name.
Xin chào tất cả mọi người, cảm ơn mọi người vì đã quay lại với video ở kênh của mình. Và hôm nay kênh của mình tiếp tục đưa đến mọi người câu chuyện về Lý Tử Diệp và CEO James nha mọi người. Còn video Lý Hoạch Ca thì mình cũng sẽ cố gắng lên đều đặn hơn để mọi người có thể theo dõi cả hai câu chuyện này. Do thời gian vừa qua bận một số công việc cá nhân nên là Lý Tử Diệp thì mình có lên không có đầy đủ ở cái kênh này cho lắm, thì mọi người cũng có thể xem video Lý Hoài Ca thay vào đó, tại vì cả hai câu chuyện nó đều rất là hay và ý nghĩa luôn. Hôm nay thì câu chuyện về Lý Tử Diệp, vì sự mất tích của Lý Tử Diệp thì hiện tại nó vẫn đang là còn một ẩn số, và hy vọng rằng mọi người sẽ tiếp tục theo dõi kênh cũng như là để lại những bình luận để có thể là mong muốn cho Diệp được trở về an toàn cùng với James, cũng như hãy chia sẻ video này đến với những người khác để mọi người cũng có thể xem được câu chuyện ý nghĩa này. Và đừng quên hãy ấn đăng ký kênh, sau đó bật chuông thông báo để không bỏ lỡ bất kỳ tập nào mọi người nhé.